So I also want to talk about in class, she gave us a question on the family dynamics of how it affects the children. And then, not affects the children, but it was around, you know, how should you handle it with age appropriate. And she also mentioned too that some families don't even speak up or say anything. So my response was the impact of alcoholism and drug abuse on family dynamics can be can be profound and long lasting. In my personal experiences, I grew up witnessing the struggles of addiction firsthand. My father was an alcoholic for many years, and two of my partners faced significant drug problems. This background shaped my perspective, leading me to avoid pursuing relationships with individuals who exhibit similar behaviors as I had seen the detrimental effects firsthand. I recall the stress my stepmother experienced when my father would leave her, often packing his belongings on payday. As a child, I felt overwhelmed witnessing the cycle of abuse that ensued, as well as the economic strain on our family. My stepmother worked two jobs. um, She worked two jobs to make ends meet, yet the instability caused by my addiction overshadowed her efforts. In my own relationships, I was unaware of my partner's severe drug issues until the associ- associate, associated abuse becomes emerged. So it was their behaviors that set off alarms for me. For instance, I felt intense anger toward one husband who would return after disappearing for days. His guilt pulpi- was palpable, but over time I learned to detach from that manipulation. After enduring this cycle multiple times, I decided enough was enough. The fear of losing him, or worse, of him being harmed, weighed heavily on me, especially considering the potential impact on my children. I realized that investing my energy in a damaging relationship was futile. In response, I sought support through Alcoholics Anonymous and Al Anon, aiming to reclaim my sanity and understand the dynamics of addiction. For many years, I grappled with anger directed at the drug abuse that ultimately led to the demise of my marriage. The person I thought I knew had deceived me from the beginning and showed no remorse for the pain caused. Then one day he vanished from our lives without any explanation, leaving me uncertain about his fate to this day. The experience highlights the complexities of dealing with addiction and its effect on relationships and family life. It is important to approach the topic of addiction with compassion rather than judgment. Many individuals struggle with addiction and may find themselves in difficult situations which can impact not only their lives but also the lives of their loved ones. One common issue is that addicts may open credit cards in the names of their partners or children to access funds for their substance use. The situation can lead to significant financial challenges from the families affected to protect oneself, especially when entering dating relationships. It's advisable to put a hold on credit cards and report with major credit agencies. This proactive step can help safeguard personal credit from potential misuse and prevent unexpected debt. Reflecting on my experience from 18 years ago, I've observed the importance of supporting individuals with addictions and offering help to their families. By fostering understanding and providing assistance, we can contribute to the healthy communities and promote recovery. And that's what I wrote for that one. And then I wrote so when you have children, it's very important to do age appropriate, but not to hide it. And I wanted to share why I didn't want to hide it. This is what I put it under. I was just looking up my notes. Yeah, so the question was, so it was talking about children versus couples, you know, you know. So protecting children from witnessing a parent actively using drugs is critical, but we also need to shield them from the hardships families face due to the parents' choices. regarding their habits. This reality should never be concealed. Age appropriate guidance can help children understand why there is no extra money for certain activities. I never wanted my children to think it was acceptable to emulate a parent with harmful habits because it has real life effects on them, leading to confusion. My parents openly shared their experiences in front of us, and I carried that burden for years. In all honesty, I wish they had not covered up what was happening. Instead, they should have established boundaries by calling the police and standing their ground. Children should not be living in these toxic environments. We need to take action instead of sweeping these issues under the rug. Demonstrating that our family does not tolerate such behaviors or any form of abuse, including emotional abuse. The same applies to couples. We can care for each other continuously and offer support, but if boundaries aren't set, how do we determine where to draw the line? And I'm and these are some of the things I've taught to my children because it was real important for them to um, know the truth. I didn't want them not knowing. I didn't want children born to addiction, I didn't, or anything. I'm not born, but I didn't want them to think, yeah, it's a party every day. I didn't want that for them. Absolutely not. But they were going to experience what they were going to experience and go through what they had to go through. I almost lost my daughter. Um, and then, you know, it just happened that way. But she grew from it. She walks into a place, she feels something ain't right, she's out. She knows automatically it's in her body. It's embedded. When you almost die, trust me, you never forget. I have something here too. And so, I didn't. I wanted them to know we're suffering because of what this person's doing, but I wanted them to feel and see it so they don't ever have to rely on someone else. I've taught my kids from day one your own bank accounts, one account for bills, but you have your own spending money. You have your own way to get out if you have to. If you need something, you go get it because it's your own money. And always keep working because working provides your independence. Get your driver's license. You want to give your kids the independence. They get their driver's license, they get jobs, part time, full time, whatever. They go into the service afterwards. We're supposed to raise our children and they're allowed to have experiences. We're not allowed to put them under the thumb at a young age with no life experience. You have to do this for God, you have to do that and that. Because my daughter was, like I listened to it, I ate with it, I drank. Anything I did, God had me in the Word. So I would talk to her, I mean, you can ask her, I was a real pain in her neck. But later, she thanked me. She thanked me so many times. I would not let her go to house parties, and when she almost died, was in her own grandparents' house. So, but if the people wasn't around, they wouldn't have known. And I tried. I warned. I kept sending messages to my stepmother, and they blew me off. They got the lesson of a lifetime. The whole neighborhood knew what was going on in their house. I'd want to move too if I was embarrassed like that. But the thing is, it could have been prevented if she would have listened. She could have asked certain questions. There was a lot of things that people miss because they think, oh, my kids aren't going to do that. They're going to do that. But the lessons are important for everyone. But if you keep it hidden, how are they going to know? Like how are they going to know? They're not. And like it's funny. So with my son, I taught him the condom at age 5. I did. I took the bananas out and I taught him off and on throughout the years. And the condom is the number one thing in his life. I mean, my stepmother used to tell me all the time, you talk to these kids about things that aren't age appropriate. But that was age appropriate because some people are more mature than others. And I had a really bright son, very smart. And then my daughter was very bright. And I wanted to always um, make sure that they were protected and protect themselves. And also, Father gave me Psalms 5 for you guys to read. Another thing too, no one should tell you how you should raise your kids. No one. But I never badmouthed anybody. I'm not. No, that's a no. I brought the awareness to my children. It's real important. And I didn't want my children in loveless relationships, which I'm sure they did. Probably went through it. I remember my son came to me once and he said, you spend a lot of money on the ebooks, but you remember, for 40 years I didn't read anything. I didn't. I did not like to read, and I stuttered real bad. And so he was upset with that. But those ebooks only cost me $3, but I did use every bit of money I had. That's when I went through all of Christian philosophy. I read everything in that field because that's what was given to me. And then I read about DNA. I read about the brain because I wanted to know how I can uh, fix myself because I had speech impediment, learning disabilities. I had all these problems, but I'm getting better. Like I'm completely, you know what I mean? Sometimes people say things to me and I don't get it right away. 3 weeks later, I'm doing the dishes and I'm laughing. And I've talked about that in my past videos. But what I've learned through all these things is that everything God gave me, I gave to my kids. And I'm really thankful that I listened to Father because without him, I'd be nothing. And if you want to reject me, I have a nice life because I'm okay with that. Been rejected all my life, so I'm used to it. And I don't care. Because as long as I'm happy and have my peace, which I really like, you know, um, I had to also to rebuild my daughter's relationship too with me and her because she didn't like some of the things that happened when she was younger because they didn't let her have a lot of freedom. And she would talk to her partner about it and not me. And that's another thing too. When you go to your parents about certain situations in your your relationships, what you're doing is creating a divide. You have a problem with your partner, you take it up with your partner, not your family, not your friends. Because when you want to get involved with them, now your family don't like them, they don't trust them. And I used to tell my daughter, go to him. Don't tell me nothing. I always stayed respectful with with my grandson's dad. I didn't like him, but you know what? That was a personal thing, and I stuck with that. But I didn't tell my daughter all these things. You know what I mean? I did share. I mean, there was a lot of problems there, but I shared the information with her. I mean, her own therapist was trying to get her to leave. No one can get anyone to do anything until they know for themselves and they can do it on their own. Because if you leave when somebody tells you to, you're going to go right back. That's why so many people keep going back to those relationships over and over and over because they're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it because their family members are concerned for their safety, as we see how many people are dying for wanting to leave their partners and they start to live their lives under the same roof. That's dangerous. But people do it, you know, they feel free. They're starting to, hey, I'm not believing that anymore. You know what I'm saying? But it has to take the person to do it. Love them unconditionally, your children. You can send them videos or whatever. That she told me too. You know, she told me I never looked at not one of them. No, she didn't. She said that to me, and I was like, I didn't believe her. And it doesn't matter anyway. But she still made up her own decision, what was best for her. You know, picking up millions of pieces that he left behind. And that was heartbreaking more than anything. I can't even tell you. And then to sit in a room full of people who think you're just ugly, dirty, money hungry, um, for a child that you gave birth to, or that you helped conceive, I should say, to not support the child in any way, shape, or form, that's disgusting. How dare you talk like that about your baby's mamas? That's not right. And these mothers who love their boys so much, why shouldn't they be responsible for the children that are theirs? And if the father refuses to take a DNA test because he knows it's his, and you're backing it, and you know that child's part of your heritage, that makes no sense to me. None. How dare you? How dare? You should be ashamed of yourselves, all of you, because these people, these single mothers, are out here working sometimes two jobs at a time, going to school to better themselves. I mean, they are like soldiers to get ahead in life, and they're doing it. I see it in my own house. I mean, I'm so thankful I instilled that my children need to work. I gave them love and compassion too. Hey, you got to have one day off. Father says one day off. One day off. You got to take a break. I know sometimes you can't, but you have to because you got to have proper rest so you can think right. And if you're with somebody or even a friend who's keeping you up late at night just to talk and talk and talk, it's goodbye, dude. I got to get my sleep. It's goodbye, Missy. I got to get my sleep. I got a day. I got to go to work and I have to think. Hard to think on your feet when you're tired and exhausted. And it's hard to drive that way too. So always keep those things in mind. Something don't feel right here. Why? The guy knows I'm working, or the female knows I'm working 24/7, or I got two or three jobs in school. Why do they keep doing this? Why aren't they doing more to help me? Hey, let me come over and clean your house for you. Hey, let me come and wash your toilets. Hey, let me bring you some food. Or here, let me deliver it to you. No, it's let me keep your time occupied so you can't think straight while you swoop in and lie to you. And then I'm going to sit in your house. I'm going to spend all your money. I'm going to eat all your food, and I'm just going to use you to death until I can't take anymore. And then I'm going to move on to the next because that's exactly what my second husband did. Put me in debt. He took things from me he shouldn't have, and he did a lot. It took me a while. I really had to work through that, and that's what happens. And trust is huge, but it's important to have because if you can't trust outside of you, how can you trust what you're feeling inside? So it's intuition. You got to stick to the plan. God's got one for you, and you got to go to God. It's God will give you the answers. He will provide for you. I've prayed a couple of times. I've asked God, can you open their eyes so I can avoid that danger, or. But that's a choice. I remember I did that with my daughter, and something else came about. It wasn't even nothing to do with with the relationship she was in. It was a boss. And then one day she calls me. She goes, I need you to meet me in the parking lot. And so I did. And he uh, he was helping her with her radiator. He brought some stuff, and he wanted to go in her apartment and wash his hands. I said, "Oh no, I'm right here. You can wash your hands right here." And he was real adamant about it. And he tried to. Nothing he was going to do was going to work. And then my daughter comes to me a couple of days later. Why is he always scheduled when I'm working? She didn't even know, bro, because she was too wrapped up in what she was dealing with in the relationship of drama. She missed it. And then she had this girl that she got the job for to who started drama claiming that my daughter was sleeping with that boss, and it wasn't the case at all. That's how the rumors start, right? Because you don't know the circumstance in the household. You don't. And when you make assumptions and do things like that to hurt people, you are definitely asking for some serious problems. It's crazy. I can't even tell you. I can't. I have put my foot in my mouth I don't know how many times, and I've been reprimanded for it and publicly humiliated for it too. But it is what it is. It happens. You know, I hide for a couple of days and go over it with God and stress out like no tomorrow. But I still have to go outside and face the music, and I do. I go out and I face it. You know, and I know the rumors are going to start because people don't keep anything to themselves. We're going to spread it like wildfire. Go ahead, spread it. And then the consequences come for doing that. That's why I really like about um, people in the Bible because they went to God for the support, God for help. They went to Jesus. They went to the cross. I mean, it's so fascinating what I see. My mother would go to church and she couldn't kiss Jesus enough on that cross. I don't think she really understood how much God played a part in her life because some people didn't get healed, right? And and they weren't ready to die or whatever. You need to come to peace with all that and start taking back what you put out. Start making it right for people so they can have experience and have a life. When you kill and destroy somebody, eventually it falls. They either commit suicide, they become loners, um, and then they don't trust nobody, and then they get to be alone. Maybe they don't have God yet either, and maybe then when you have people like me who are spreading the word, have these conversations with people, they're coming in and being with God and they're starting to flourish again. Their lives are changing. It makes my soul cry, bro. I'm not kidding. Rumors are the most worst destroying thing ever. Why would you believe what you hear instead of coming to the source? And then I keep it between me and God. I remember when I was an Al Anon counselor, I talked about this in the past too. I went to Father, I'm going to give this to you because it's not mine to carry, first of all. And other people's burdens are not mine to carry. And that's why I keep giving it to the Father. I give it to Jesus at the foot of the cross. I've had more people tell me, you know that Jesus is not on the cross anymore. No shit, Sherlock. But that's a reminder for me of why he died. For me. I have a cross here. And I also have, this was my mother's. She would literally sleep with it, with Jesus on the cross. She would sleep with it because she was a mystic. She was attacked all the time. You know what I mean? She prayed all the time for everybody. When we pray, I just pray. I don't, because the Holy Spirit, He takes them and distributes those prayers wherever they go. When I'm called to do something, I go do it. I don't hesitate. Nothing. I used to in the past, which I talk about that through all my videos. You know what I mean? So, I know I'm talking a long time, but I just have a lot to say. And sometimes I'm still hurt by some of the things that were put out there that weren't true. And they do get back to me. You'd be amazed how they get back. You'd be really amazed. And you can have that too. Start turning your lives around. Start loving your neighbor instead of hating them for no apparent reason because you think you know something you don't know. Yeah, I'm rambling. So it was Psalms 5. All right, God bless. Peace.